from the Angular UI homepage, we had the UI utils, which was a utility package with no external dependencies, and that's what we've just looked at. So we're now moving on to UI modules. Now, just to show you how up-to-date Angular UI is, the Select To module here was not deprecated when I recorded the introductory lesson to this course, and now you can see it's deprecated, and instead you're supposed to use UI Select. So we will be looking at UI Select later on, but for now, let's look at a few of these UI modules. 3 of these modules are very similar. We have the CodeMirror IDE, the ACE IDE, and the TinyMCE. CodeMirror and ACE are text editors, and TinyMCE is a more general purpose content editor. We're not going to look at all 3 of them. We're just going to look at CodeMirror and ACE, which are the 2 code IDEs, and how you can use these in Angular. Now remember, all of these projects here that are considered UI modules in Angular UI are freestanding projects that have been around for probably longer than Angular in most cases on their own. What these UI modules are wrappers that allow you to use these libraries within your Angular application as Angular directives. So we're going to have to install not only the module for that specific library, but also that library itself. We're here on the desktop, so I'm going to copy our template, and we'll just call this IDEs, and let's cd into IDEs. And right now, if I list what's in public lib, you can see that we have 2 packages, Angular and Angular UI utils. We actually don't need utils anymore, so I'm going to go ahead and remove public lib Angular -UI -utils. Okay, so now that that's gone, you can see the only library we have is Angular. But let's start with CodeMirror. To use CodeMirror, we need to do bower install, and first of all, we need to install CodeMirror itself. So we can go ahead and do that. That was quick and easy. But then we need to go ahead and install Angular-UI -CodeMirror. And this is the library that we'll use to wrap CodeMirror. Now notice we didn't actually have to install CodeMirror first. As you can see here, that was a dependency of Angular-UI -CodeMirror. This is actually more clear when we install the ACE editor. Instead of installing ACE first, let's do bower install, and we'll say Angular-UI -ACE. As you can see, Angular UI ACE installed ACE builds, which is a bower repository for the ACE library. So now we can do ls public lib, and you can see how we have a little bit more going on here. We have CodeMirror and the CodeMirror Angular UI wrapper, and we also have ACE and the Angular UI ACE wrapper. Okay, so now let's go ahead and open up our index.html file. Now currently, the only script that we have here, we'll remove the UI utils, and we only have Angular and our app.js, but we need a little more than that. Let's start with CodeMirror, which means we need to add a link to both the CodeMirror source code and the Angular module for CodeMirror. Let me flip back here and open up public lib. So we have a look at this. We have CodeMirror and Angular UI CodeMirror. So for CodeMirror, we need CodeMirror/lib CodeMirror.js. And for the UI, we just need that and then UI CodeMirror.js. Okay, so let's copy this script tag here, and we can say public lib CodeMirror/lib /CodeMirror.js. public/lib/angular-UI-CodeMirror, and then UI-CodeMirror.min. So those are the 2 files we need. We actually also need a CSS file, this one right here, lib/CodeMirror CSS. So up here, let's add a link, and then we can add an href of public/lib/CodeMirror/lib/CodeMirror.css. All right, let's open up app.js. And in here, let's add UI.CodeMirror. Okay, so now that we have CodeMirror being added, let's actually use it. So inside our main controller here, let's go ahead and add a div, and we can just add UI-CodeMirror to this div, and let's close the div, and let's see what happens. Head back to the browser, and if we refresh the page, we can't actually see anything, but if I click here, you can see that we can actually start writing some simple code-like stuff here. Okay, that's pretty impressive, but let's see what else we can do. So right now, there's actually not that much to see. Let's see if we can change some options and get this to look a little different. In this div here, where we have CodeMirror UI, we can actually add some options. And let's add a CM opts object, which means that over here in our controller, we need to create our CM opts object right here. And now we are ready to add some options. So let's do line numbers equals true. We could do indent size equals 4 and tab size equals 4, right? So these are basic. And now if I come come back and refresh the page, you can see that now these things are being taken into play. Now we have line numbers and it's looking a little better. However, there are two things we don't really have. First of all, the coloring is very basic. There's no actual theme involved here. And second of all, it'd be nice if we had some syntax highlighting. So let's go ahead and add both of these. Now to do these things with Code Mirror, we need to do two things. First of all, we need to add options for them. So we can add a theme here. For example, let's say the theme is solarized. And second of all, we need to add a mode, which we'll say is JavaScript. And the mode is basically the syntax highlighting. What language are we expecting to be written in this text area? However, if I refresh the page, this doesn't actually happen by default. What we need to do is add some links to files for the theme and the mode. Now, if we come back and look at what came in this Bower package, you can see we have a theme folder and a mode folder. The mode folder, we need mode/JavaScript, javascript.js. And then in the theme folder, we have a whole bunch of CSS files, and we can see right down here, solarized.css. So what we have to do is add another style sheet here, code mirror / instead of lib, it's /theme, and this theme is solarized. And if we do that, we should see some immediate changes in the coloring here. But to get the syntax highlighting, we need to, let's copy the first one here, and code mirror / mode / JavaScript / javascript.js. Okay, so now when I refresh the page, and there you go. And so now you can see we have the solarized theme as well as JavaScript being highlighted just fine. Okay, so that is Code Mirror. Let's look at the ACE editor now. If we come back to our project here, you can see Angular UI ACE. We just need UI ACE. And then in builds, what we want is source min no conflict. And then in here, we want, there's tons of files here. Thankfully, we only have to worry about one of them, and that is the top one here, ace.js. Amazingly, there is no style sheet that we need to add for ACE, and there is no syntax highlighting sheet that we ever need to add. All of it can be done simply by, so we have public /lib /ace-builds /source-min-no conflict /ace.js. And then the other one is lib/angular-ui-ace, and then we have ui-ace.js. So now we're ready to actually add our div, and it works exactly like Code Mirror. We can say ui-ace, and we can pass it, let's say ace options, and we'll close the div. And now we can do something very similar here. We'll do scope.ace options, and we can say theme equals, let's say twilight, and we'll set the mode equal to HTML. And as I already mentioned, we don't have to add a theme or a mode file. And of course, before I forget, while we're in this file, we do need to add ui-ace as one of our modules dependencies. So now if we come back to the browser and refresh the page, notice that we're not actually seeing our ACE editor down below here. However, if we go to our elements here and inside our controller, you can see we have our ACE element here, and it certainly has a lot inside of it. The problem is that by default, the ACE editor class has no height. So what we need to do is give it some styling of our own. And we'll say the class ace_editor, and we will give it a height of 400 pixels. And if I refresh the page, you can see now we have this editor right here, and it's black, so that probably means our Twilight theme is working just fine. Let's see how it does in styling HTML. So I can say H2, and look at that, it actually auto-completed our H2. That's pretty impressive. We can say Angular UI, and let's have maybe a paragraph. That's pretty impressive, I think, with the whole completion of the elements there. And if we add new lines, you can see that we are getting indentation just fine. Notice we're even getting some error messages here. Wow, look at that. Hover over, and we even get expected tag name and got something else instead. Pretty impressive. Oh, we have an information bubble here. Wow, start tag without seeing a doc type first, expected doc type HTML. This is a pretty impressive editor, ACE is here. I think if I were going to use these in one of my projects, I would want to use ACE. It's pretty impressive that we only need to add the one ACE file. And if you look inside the ACE code, it's using a version of require.js to require other files as necessary. So that's pretty cool. But of course, Code Mirror is very customizable as well. So if you would prefer, you could go ahead and use that. Now, for both of these great editors, there is a lot of customization you can do. If you go to their respective websites, which I'll have links to underneath this video, you'll be able to see all of the different options you can set, and there are many, many more options. And I should say that all of the options that are available on the respective websites, even though those have nothing to do with the Angular wrappers, you can use and set just as we did by passing them in an options object to the directives in your own Angular application. So Angular UI, as we're using it here, is really just a very helpful simple and easy to use wrapper for these very mature projects. So if you need an IDE within your Angular application, you have two great choices to choose from right there.